This is the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and it's the California Route 1 trim level. Now this thing is a little bit unique compared to the other trims because it's strictly available in rear-wheel drive and we can only get the extended range battery. But that means power-wise we're looking at 290 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. Steve here, Cars with Steve, and before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Formula Ford for giving me access to this vehicle to shoot the video for you today. Check down in the description below for their contact details. Now I've also hidden a $10 Amazon gift card code somewhere in this video. You're the first one to find it and claim it, and it's yours. But guys, let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what the Mach-E California Route 1 is all about. Starting off looking at the exterior of the vehicle. So a few things that are unique looking at the actual rim itself. So this is the 18-inch tire that's going to be available inside of the California Route 1. And that's going to be the same whether we're in Canada or the US. It's an 18-inch tire and it's Michelin. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, so this thing is strictly available in rear-wheel drive. So we're not going to have that dual front motor as well that we'd find in some of the other trim levels, but plenty of power and great styling though when it comes down to it. Now, technology-wise, inside of this vehicle, we've got our beautiful LED headlamps. Now, the California Route 1 does have that forward sensing system and that front-facing camera, which means that we do have that full 360 camera. On top of that, it also does have park assist. So lots of different technology that's available inside of this thing as a default. Exterior styling-wise, though, we've got sequential lighting in the back there. Looks absolutely stunning. We've got our pony badge along the back. And then up overhead, we've got our shark fin. So that's going to be essentially the receiver for our AM/FM Sirius XM, etc. But I love the actual styling of this thing. And that's one of the interesting things, because if you look at that black component right along the top there, so if you take a look at the Mustang from the side, it does have a similar body styling and sizing of the regular Mustang. But just the way that they have this thing aesthetically just looks really, really nice. Now, one thing to note, looking at the actual side view mirrors, so they are power folding as well. So taking a look there, so we just unlock, and then when we go to lock the vehicle, they will power fold in as well. So we do have that flexibility. Now, a few things to point out as we get under the hood of the vehicle. So there isn't much to write home about. The only thing that we really have to worry about from a maintenance perspective, we're going to top up our fluid, and then we've really only got to worry about the brakes. So very straightforward there. We've got a little tray. We can technically pop this out. There's a few screws we'd have to remove in order to be able to do that. And then we've got a little drain plug along the bottom there as well. So if you need to store some things, drinks, things like that, you could absolutely use this as a mobile cooler, which is kind of neat. Now, on top of that, we also do have an emergency latch underneath here as well, and that's going to be a North American safety standard. But really, really great, because as we look up, we've got that pony badge stretch across the underside of there as well. It does look very, very sharp. Looking at some standard technology inside of the California Route 1. So we've got our forward-facing camera. We've got the forward sensing system as well. So that's going to give us that full 360 view. Now, on top of that, this thing also does have the reverse sensing system, and it's got the reverse brake assist. On top of that, this thing also does have the lane keeping system and our blind spot system. Now, in order to be able to charge this thing up, if you see along the driver's side door, we've got a little cutout there, and you can easily pop this thing open. Now, taking a look along the side, we've got a beautiful pony badge, and then we've got a nice little cutout here with an indicator light letting us know how full the battery is. Now, when it comes into actually charging, when you buy your Mach-E, you will get a 20-foot cable that's going to be included with your purchase, but it's a 20-foot cable. So depending on where you're parking this thing, it might be a little bit tight. We could use that cable. You can plug it literally just into a regular wall outlet if you want to, but the charge times are absolutely horrendous. And then you've got a few different options. Like, the one thing I would maybe consider is looking at the home charging station instead, because it's going to give us an even quicker charge. Now, that quick charge is something to consider, because if you're on the road and you want to be able to charge up quickly, you do have that flexibility. So the numbers are going to be popping up down below, but when you use one of those DC quick charging stations, you're going to be able to get quite a little bit of juice out of a couple minute, like a 10-15 minute charge as well. So if you need to get somewhere quickly, you don't have to sit there for hours waiting for this thing to charge up as well. Now, when it comes to the actual charge time itself, you're going to get about 80–90% roughly of the charge, and then things are going to taper off from there. So that first 80%, 90% roughly is going to be done within a few hours. That last little bit is what really takes the big bulk of time in order to do as well. So that's where leaving it charging when you're at work, at home, whatever the case may be, is going to come into effect. Next up, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So we've got a beautiful pony badge in the front there. Flipping the fob around, we've got our unlock and our lock button, our trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic alarm button. Now, on top of that, we've got our emergency access key, but this thing is blank, so it won't actually do anything inside of this vehicle. Now, one thing to note, you are only going to get one key when you purchase your Mustang. When you purchase your Mach-E, it's only going to come with a single fob. We do have the option of using the Ford Pass app on our cell phone. We can set our phone up as a key as well if we'd like to. Now, one of the nice things is that if our phone dies and we don't have the actual fob on us, we can program in a number as well, which is going to give us emergency access to the vehicle to be able to get inside and also start this thing up as well if for whatever reason our phone dies. Now, also to note, we don't have a remote start on the key fob. We'd use the Ford Pass app on our cell phone to not only use phone as a key, but also to be able to remote start the vehicle. We can look at upcoming EV stations and a number of other things. So it's really great what you can do with that system. Now, getting inside of the trunk, inside of the California Route 1, it is a manual liftgate. So we could double press this to be able to unlock it, unlock only. On top of that, there's a little button underneath it we can use, manual liftgate, but let's have a peek inside of the dimensions. All right, so as you can see there, dimensions for the trunk are going to be showing up, so we do have quite a little bit of cargo space. Now, one of the nice things about this vehicle is that the rear seats are also foldable. So it's a 60-40 split, so 60 driver, 40 passenger. So we can easily press the button along the top in order to be able to open these things up. But look at the cargo dimensions in comparison. So when we fold those seats down, we've got a lot more space. So that's one of the nice things about the Mach-E is that there is a ton of space available inside of this thing. So if you need to, you can fold one seat down or the other as well if you need to store some different things. Right now, as we start to hop inside the vehicle, so a few things to point out. We do have a little storage tray along the left and the right-hand side there. We do have a 12-volt power point in the back, so we can easily plug some things in. And then we've also got a little light there with the pony badge. Now, this is not the standard cargo cover. This is going to be the cargo protection package that we're looking at here. Typically, it's just going to be this cloth liner, but we do have this thermoplastic rubber tray instead, which I do think is a smart idea, a smart investment. And we do have the option of getting that rubberized tray for the floor liners as well. So for that driver pass, for the front and for the second row. But taking a peek, we can lift this guy up, and as you can see there, we do have our tire inflator kit. No mini spare tire inside of this thing, so just an inflator kit, but we do have a little bit of storage space there. But that's typically where you're going to find the bag for the charger instead. So I would recommend just leaving the charger in the back there. Now, as we start to move up overhead, we do have a privacy shade, and that's going to be for whatever stuff we might have in the trunk of the vehicle. But we can easily pop this thing off if we want to. So along the very top, we've got a clip on both sides. We can easily adjust that. And then we just remove the clip along the side there as well. So we can easily remove this thing if we really, really don't like it, or if we need to store some things that might be a little bit too tight with that thing on there. Now, the amount of space inside of this vehicle is actually kind of mind-blowing. Like, I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody 6 feet tall. And like, even then, I've got like 3.5 maybe inches of headspace up overhead. So that's really, really nice to know that there is a ton of space that's inside of the back of this vehicle. Now, with this driver's seat set up for somebody 6 feet tall, looking at knee space, like I still have a bunch of knee space, and I've got a decent amount of foot space as well. So I can kind of stretch out as I go in order to get a little bit more comfortable. Now, one thing to note, these seats are locked into place, so we can't slide them forwards or backwards. We can't recline them, bring them forwards, things like that. They're locked into place, but still, like I said, with me sitting all the way back, like 3.5 inches of headspace easily, and so I can comfortably sit inside of this thing. Now, looking at some second row features and technology, we've got our holy crap handle up overhead. We can turn our cabin lighting on or off in the top there. Along the door for the driver and the passenger side in that second row, we've got our window button, so we can open and close these little windows. We've got a little storage space along both sides there as well. Now, on top of that, we also do have a pocket along the back of the driver and the passenger seat, so if we need to store some things, we can easily do that. And then looking along the back here, we do have some cup holders. So we've got 2 cup holders there, and then simply you can click that in order to lock it back into place. Now, when we look at the actual back of the actual armrest, so we do have some basics for our vent. So we've got our vent control. And we've also got 2 USB ports. So a USB as well as a USB-C, so a mini plug. So it's nice to know that folks in the back still do that flexibility of being able to charge some things up. So we've got 4 total power points, 2 in the front, 2 in the back there as well. And then you could always look at like an aftermarket dongle if you need to add a few more spots in there. So, but it's at the end of the day, this thing is very comfortable. So ActiveX seating material, I mean, this thing is nice. Like, I wouldn't mind being in the back seat of this kind of a Mustang on a long distance trip. But I mean, if you look at the regular gas Mustang instead, like there is 0 chance I'd be able to sit in the back of one of those things. So it's nice to know that inside of the next gen version of the Mustang, we've got plenty of space for that second row. Right, taking a peek along our driver's side doors. So we do have a 5-digit number that we can use in order to be able to get inside the vehicle if we're using phone as a key, etc. We can unlock the door there. And moving along the inside, so a few things to point out. We do have our seat memory buttons, so that's really nice because we can set up our driver's seat as well as our side view mirror in order to remember our own personal profile. We've got our unlock and our lock buttons. We've got the basic for our side view control, side view mirror control, so we can power fold in, we can adjust each one if we'd like to, and then we've also got our window controls. So really, really nice as we look just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. We've got our max windshield defroster. We've also got our running lamp selector, and then we can figure out what's going on with the brightness of this cluster screen, so we can make it brighter or darker as necessary. All right, adjusting the driver's seat inside of the California Route 1 is a power process for the driver and the passenger side. So just by your left-hand side there, we've got a series of switches. Very first one is going to bring the seat forwards, backwards, up and down. Next one is going to adjust the backrest, so we can bring that one forwards or backwards. And then we've got another one for our lumbar support. So power lumbar support to give us a little bit of extra stability for our lower back. When it comes into adjusting the steering wheel, it's a manual process. So just by our left knee, we've got a little lever there. We're just going to crank that down. Same thing, telescopic, we can go in, out, up and down. Once you've got that perfect position, click it to log it back into place. All right, so hopping inside the vehicle. So this thing, first impression, looks absolutely beautiful. That's the beauty of the Mustang Mach-E. They did a fantastic job from a basic styling perspective. Now, when it comes down to it, the California Route 1, one of the nice things is that we've got that beautiful panoramic roof, stretches across almost the entire roof of the body itself, which I think looks absolutely incredible. Now, one thing to note is that that roof is locked into place. So we don't have the option of opening this thing up, unfortunately, but it does look really, really sharp. Now, when it comes down to the actual seating itself, so it is Ford's ActiveX seating material. On top of that, this is the black onyx interior. So I think it does look very, very sharp, and it does contrast nicely with certain colors of the exterior of the vehicle as well. But getting into some interior things. Now, this is just going to be a basic walk-around of the actual steering wheel and that Sync 4 media screen. If you're looking for more of an in-depth look at both systems, check down in the description below because I've put together a comprehensive video on how these things work. But looking at some of the basics, so beautiful pony badge on the actual steering wheel itself. When we look at the buttons along the left-hand side, that's going to be for our adaptive cruise control system. So button on the very top left is going to toggle the system on or off. Button on the top right-hand side is going to actually be our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? We've got our lane keeping system as well. So that lane keeping system works 3 different ways. Way number 1, if we start to veer over into a lane without signaling, we're going to get a little bit of a steering wheel shake, almost as if we're running over rumble pavement. Way number 2 is it'll actually gently bump us back into our lane. Way number 3, it'll do a mixture of both. So we'll get a little bit of a steering wheel shake, and then it's also going to gently nudge us back into our lane. So the vehicle is very smart that way. Now, on top of that, we also do have the lane centering system. That takes the idea of driving safely to the next level. So with that system actively engaged, what it'll do is if we start to veer over one way or the other, it's actually going to keep us centered inside of our lane. So as you're driving, you'll notice that the car itself actually kind of takes over the steering wheel, even if you aren't turning. So it's going to kind of adjust you and keep you in your lanes as you go, as long as it'll recognize the lane markings. So it's kind of neat that the car is smart to do that, because one of the other cool things is that the vehicle itself, this specific one, the California Route 1, is equipped with the Blue Drive system. So we've got a little camera right along the top there, and what that's going to do is it's going to watch our eye gaze, because there are some self-driving cars out there where what'll happen is you could technically drive with your eyes closed. Now, this is something very different, because what'll happen is with this Blue Drive system, the camera is actually going to watch your eye gaze. So if you're sleeping behind the wheel, it's going to turn the system off. So it's really, really smart that way. And it essentially is hands-free driving. So we can set the adaptive cruise control system up, and then it'll literally drive the vehicle for us as well. So it's really, really great that way. So it's one of the nice things is that from a general safety perspective, yes, we do have a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it, but it's nice to know that we can't drive this vehicle unsafely. So we don't have the option of jumping into the back seat and letting the car drive. We do still have to be front row center in order for this thing to actively work. So really, really great there. Moving along the right-hand side, we've got a series of different buttons. The first one on the top left is going to be our voice command prompt. So we can do things like change radio stations, make phone calls, and navigate using our voice. But as part of this new Sync 4A system, we have a lot of other options. So we can actually program this thing in for voice recognition. So we can say things like, okay, Ford, hello, Ford, etc. And then we can navigate, we can make phone calls, change stations as well using our voice without having to press that button. So it's kind of neat. We can answer or hang up on a phone call, we can change between songs or radio stations, and then we can also increase or decrease our volume. So let's actually do a quick audio test. Okay, that is really, really cool, and for a couple of reasons. Like, this is the base 6-speaker audio system, so when we get into those higher trim levels, some of the other packages as well, it's going to give us the option for a 9-speaker Bang & Olufsen, but inside of the California Route 1, it's a 6-speaker system, but as you heard, it does sound absolutely incredible by itself, so it's really, really neat. Now, taking a peek at the actual turning stick. So, turning stick on the left-hand side is going to be exactly for that. That's going to be for our signals, and then we can either flash or lock it or high beams. Along the right stick, we can adjust how sensitive the windshield wipers are to rain hitting the windshield. We can pull towards us for that front wiper fluid. We can push away for the rear. And then we also do have the option of turning on our rear wipers as well, so we can do that from the inside. Now, one of the nice things is that there is a feature in the vehicle where if we've got our front wipers going and we put the car into reverse, it's automatically going to flip on those rear wipers for us too. So it's a really, really smart system, and I do recommend using that one because it is useful. We're backing up, it'll automatically flip those wipers on for us. So that's it's kind of a neat setting. Now, as we start to move off to the side, so inside of the vehicle, across the entire vehicle lineup, we are push button start. So it's simple, push button once in order to turn it on. But one thing to note, you do need to make sure you press the brake in order to actually turn the car on. Now, looking at this Sync 4 media screen, there is a ton of stuff to cover off here. As I mentioned, this is going to be just a quick walk around of the actual screen itself. Check down in the description below in order to get that full walk around. But looking at some of the basics, we press the car along the top left, and that's going to give us a series of different drive modes. So we're engage, whisper, and then the unbridled, which are going to do different things. Moving down, we've got an additional settings mode, so our one-pedal drive. So the one-pedal drive is actually a pretty neat setting because with that turned on, we don't technically really need to worry about the brake too much. Now, essentially what's going to happen is we would use the gas as we would typically go, so the gas pedal in order to accelerate, but we take our foot off the gas, it's automatically going to slow us down and then work in conjunction with the regenerative braking system in order to kind of charge the battery up as well as it's braking. So it's a really smart system. We can turn that one on or off, and then we've also got a propulsion sound. So it's an electric vehicle, which means it technically operates quietly. So if you want a little bit more of a noise, we can turn that propulsion sound on, and we go, and it's going to give us a tiny bit of a sound, which is kind of neat. We've got different options for camera. We've got parking. So the vehicle itself actually is equipped with park assist. So we can get the vehicle to help us out with parallel parking, perpendicular parking, parallel park out, and a number of other things. So it's kind of neat what this can actually do. Hot button press along the actual, just by the right-hand side of the rotary dial in order to turn that system on or off. So it is neat what we can actually do with it. We've got some pretty cool driver assistance settings, and then we've got a series of more advanced settings as well. So advanced settings, we've got things like sound, phone list, and a number of other things. So one of the big things to point out is actually in the driver assistance setting. We've got our basic cruise control, adaptive and intelligent. We've got a collision assist system, so the vehicle can actively brake for us if it senses a collision. And then what it can do, it's got evasive steering. So if the vehicle senses a collision, it's going to essentially heighten the steering for us. So as we go to kind of get out of the way of a potential collision, it's going to kind of make things a little bit easier, make the wheel a little bit more responsive as we go. Down a bit more, we've got our blind spot system. So that's one of the neat things. The blind spot system essentially is going to let us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. So it's a very unobtrusive system because if we look off to the side, we've got a little pillar here which does block a little bit of the view. It's not too much though, which is nice because we can easily see what's going on right behind us. That blind spot system though lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side. And like I said, it's just a non-obtrusive light that shows up both ways. So really, really cool what this thing can actually do. We've got another button along the very top, 6 individual buttons on there, and that's going to give us a little summary of a few things that we can do as well. So it can help us out with dynamic parking. The vehicle has also got factory navigation, hot button press, and the big one here is going to be the owner's manual. So one thing to note is that when you buy a Mach-E, you're not getting an owner's manual anymore printed. So you go to buy it, and typically in other vehicles, you've got a physical owner's manual now, but not in this thing. It's all digital, and you can literally look for anything you need to inside of the actual vehicle now. So if you prefer a printed one, you can hop onto Ford's website and download the physical one. It's just in a PDF format, but it's nice to know that everything is here. We've got category search, we've got a visual search, we've got videos, which actually, now that I think about that videos one in the owner's manual, that might make things a little bit tricky for me, but it's kind of neat to know that we've got the digital owner's manual there if we absolutely need it. So it is kind of nice from that perspective. And we can get rid of that screen as well if we need to. So it's really, really neat what we can do. Now moving down, one nice thing that came inside of this Sync 4 system is digital climate control. So this is something that's kind of unique. It's a little bit different. You'll find it inside of the Ford Edge as well, but it's something that it might catch you off guard a little bit, but it is really, really smart. So we press the buttons there very simply. We've got dual zone climate control. We can easily adjust it. We've got another button in order to be able to bring things back to the driver's default setting as well. So we've got an air circulation button. So when we press that airflow button as well, it's going to let us figure out what's going on with the actual airflow in a very visually stunning way. We've got our air conditioning, max AC, we've got our air circulation button, and a few other things as well. So it's really, really neat what you can actually do with this. We've got our fan control along the very bottom as well. Now, one thing that is unique to this thing is our volume rocker. So rather than it being touchscreen like everything else is, it's an actual physical dial. So we can adjust this thing as we need to, but let's listen to this again. Okay. So it is kind of neat the way that this thing actually works. It's a tactile physical button, and then the volume on and the audio on and off is just in the middle. So we can easily turn that system on or off by pressing this button, and then we can rotate it in order to be able to increase or decrease the volume. So really, really great. Now, as we start to move down, we do have two USB ports, so our USB as well as our USB-C. Down a bit more, we do have a wireless charging pad inside of the California Route 1. So if your phone supports it, you can set yourself up so you're wirelessly charging. And then one of the cool things about this screen is that it also does support wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So we do have factory navigation inside of this vehicle. And one of the cool things about the factory nav is that it's also going to work in conjunction with EV charging stations. So you're going on a distance trip, you can also set up kind of what's going on with upcoming things. So you're planning a distance trip, you can figure out exactly when you should be stopping in order to charge up optimally as well, based off of where you're going. So it's kind of neat. Now, if we don't want to use the factory navigation, don't worry about it, because we do have the option of using either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which means we can use Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze directly through this middle screen, and it looks absolutely stunning when we do it. Moving down a tiny little bit more though, down the center stack, we've got a few cup holders. We've got our rotary dial. So the rotary dial is actually going to be our gear shifter. So we've got our park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then our low mode. Off to the side, we've got our park assist button. So park assist, as I mentioned, is going to help us out with parallel perpendicular parking. Check down into the description below for a video on how this system works. We've also got our four-way blinkers, and then we've got our electronic parking brake. So the parking brake, we're literally just going to pull up in order to be able to turn the brake on. And then in order to turn it off, we've got to press the brake first, and then we've got to push down. So that's going to turn the actual parking brake off. We've got a little armrest, which, I mean, if you're driving with your left hand, it is comfortable. Now, it would be nice if there was a gear shifter here, but I mean, it sits nicely. Like it just looks nice. It feels nice as well with yourself balanced there. Moving along the other side. So let's say if you have a tendency to drive with your right hand instead. So right hand grabbed, left hand is just kind of hanging out there, and it's still comfortable whether you go for the left or the right side. Moving this actual armrest up, we've got a little cover, retractable cover, so we can slide this thing down. Inside, we've got a little storage area, and there also is a 12-volt power point, so if we need to plug some things in, we can easily do that. Now, as we start to move up overhead, so we do have an auto-dimming rear view mirror. So if for whatever reason things are a little bit too bright behind us because you're driving later on at night, this thing is automatically going to adjust for us, so it's going to slightly dim the mirror out just to make sure that things aren't too bright for us as we go. We've got that camera along the very front, which is going to track our eyes when that self-driving feature is released. Up overhead, we can turn on our lights as well for our cabin, and we've also got a sunglasses holder up overhead as well. Now, when it comes down to this actual mirror, so taking a look, we do have our home link setting there. So if your vehicle, or sorry, if you've got a garage door opener at home, we can program in our code there. We've got a receipt or business card holder. Flipping this down, we've got another holder along the front. We've got our vanity mirror that also has the lights there as well. And then this thing can also extend out so we can block a little bit of sun as well. So really, really nice there. So that's overall settings, but I do really, really love this thing and the way that this vehicle looks and functions. All right, folks, now time for the fun part. Let's take this thing out for a spin and see how it handles. So a couple things. I'm actually going to try it in the unbridled mode, which means it's going to handle incredibly well. Like, it's at a very sporty performance when it comes down to that mode. I'm not going to do one pedal driving at first. I'm going to switch to the one pedal driving partway through just to kind of get a feel for what that one pedal driving is actually like. So let's kind of figure out what that's like. I'm going to have the propulsion sound on as well, so it's going to give us a little bit of a noise as I accelerate. So we've got that. Let's set this, and well, this is the California Route 1. So one thing I really wish was that the California Route 1 had the ventilated seats. It unfortunately doesn't. It doesn't have heated or cooled front seats. It's very unfortunate that that's the case, but it is what it is. So if you wanted those features, you'd look at the premium version of the vehicle. We'll have it though as well. So, but let's go for it. So one of the interesting things about electric vehicles, so the electrics and the hybrids, is at low speeds, it makes a little bit of like a humming noise. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I ever heard that, I was like, what is happening? It's just the nature of electric vehicles. So, and it's a safety thing at the end of the day. So 100% it's a safety thing, because electric vehicles are quiet. So if you had a quiet vehicle and people couldn't hear it, chances are good that's just like chaos and an accident absolutely waiting to happen. So having the flexibility of having that low sound, the sound at that low speed, it's just a general safety thing for people. But so I've got that lane centering system on right now as well. And it literally is controlling the steering wheel. Like, my hands are hovering on the wheel, but it is keeping me right in my lane right now. Like, that is so cool. Yeah, it just had a message pop up as well to keep hands on the steering wheel. So what is going to eventually happen is when that Blue Drive feature gets released, you can drive completely hands-free. So I'm super excited for when that feature comes out. I'm genuinely curious what it's actually going to be like inside of these things, because the technology is there. It's just that the feature hasn't been technically released as of yet. So almost there. Okay, so I've got the lane keeping system on. I'm going to turn the adaptive cruise control system on as well as we go. This is nice. Handling of this car is so good. Okay, coming up to that turn on the highway. Here we go. 3, 2, and... Oh my God. That's amazing. Oh, that's amazing. All right, fun to drive, super comfortable, unbelievably responsive. All right, okay, adaptive cruise control is now going on as well. I've got it set at highway speed. I don't know if you can hear that either. Like, I wish the microphone could pick this up. But you've kind of got this dull roar that's coming from the car, and 100% the reason why we're getting that roar is because of some of the modes that we've got set up inside of this thing. So because we've got that sound showing up, when you go to gun it, that is going to pop up. It's going to happen. And that is the propulsion sound. So the propulsion sound, optional, you can flip it on and off inside of that sync media screen, but it is a really, really cool sounding feature. So. Okay, car in front of me is slowing down, so this thing 100% is slowing right down. Like, I've got it set at 100, which is the highway speed limit here, and the car is currently going 81, 80, 79, 78, 77. So it's really, I love it. I love the fact that this thing is so smart. It just takes us down to a complete stop. And like, even with, so I've got the adaptive cruise control system going, I've got the lane centering system going as well, and it's the lane centering, lane keeping system. So it'll literally keep me in my lane, and traffic, I've got quite a little bit of it right now, but same thing, it's taking me down almost to a crawl. Like, I'm hovering at 35 kilometers an hour right now, and I'm set at 100. So that's one of the nice things about this adaptive cruise control system. Like, my foot isn't even touching the gas and brake right now. The car is literally about to take me down to a dead stop. Here we go. I'm going 10 kilometers an hour. 3, 2, and... oh, there we go. And of course, traffic is moving a little bit more again, so it'll pick me back up to speed a teeny little bit. And it brought me, okay, that's cool. So it brings you down, it's that complete auto stop, so it'll take you down to a complete stop, and then it'll pick you back up to your set speed again. So that is so cool that we've got that feature. So that's an interesting thing. So the lane centering system, it's got kind of like a bubble to let you know that it recognizes the lane, so it knows where the lane markings are. I just got off of an exit point on the highway here, and because it didn't recognize one of the lanes, that lane centering mode was canceled, which totally makes sense. Like, the car can't recognize lanes, so it would make sense that that system just kind of goes away. It's kind of neat visually how it looks though, but I mean, it's really straightforward, and then it's kind of got me crawling along with traffic right now as well. So I mean, I'm hugging 5 kilometers an hour right now on this off ramp. So overall though, like, this thing is super comfortable. It drives really nicely. I mean, I've got the one pedal drive on right now, and like, my foot's not on the gas or the brake. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. It's such a weird thing. It's like literally forget what you know about driving with this one pedal mode on. It is so neat, so neat. But that mode, I was in the unbridled mode. The propulsion, you could kind of hear it as well as I was going. I mean, because typically, like, if we press the gas in an electric vehicle, you're not hearing anything. It's just going. So it's kind of neat that that we can kind of hear things as we go, and then it gives you a little bit more of that, like, that feel of like a gas-powered car with the sound, because I mean, some people at the end of the day, they love to hear the growl. That's what Mustang lovers specifically, like it's the growl that they're after. So it's not obviously the same growl that you're going to hear in like an EcoBoost or a GT, but you will still hear a teeny bit of a growl. Here we go. So neat, so neat. And like, look at this, my foot, I'm in one pedal drive mode. I'm trying to go around a bend, and like it slowed me down there as well. Oh, I love it. I love technology. This is so neat. Okay, this is going to be the interesting one. I am genuinely curious how this next part is going to work. I'll explain why in just a second. So I've got the car right now in one pedal mode, and I'm about to come to a stop so that I can reverse. So I'm going to flip over the way I normally would if I was going to reverse. It brakes you as if you're driving in both pedal mode, like driving with your gas and your brake going. I've got it in reverse, but the car is literally not moving. I press the pedal, the gas pedal, I guess, and like here it goes, backing me up. So cool, so cool. Look, Ma, no brake. Like, that is so cool. And then back into park from there. That is it, guys. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. Share it with your social networks and subscribe as well. If you have any questions about this vehicle or any others, drop it in the comment section and let me know. If there's a video that you might want to see, feel free, reach out, let me know, drop it in the comments, and I'll give you a shout out thanking you for that suggestion as well. And until I see you next time, guys, make sure you stay safe.